Hello my friends, today I have a very special video for you with a good friend. She's a fashion photographer and a model, and I had the opportunity to film them live while they had a shooting, and we are going to do an interview today about the process of being a photographer and what it takes, all these kind of interesting details with
Kerstin. Hello everybody. Yeah, I'm working as a fashion photographer, and hopefully I give you some interesting points about my work.
Okay, perfect. Let's get started. So my first question would be, why did you decide to become a fashion photographer?
Yeah, first of all, as you said before, I also worked as a model, and this was an opportunity I got through a friend. She is a makeup artist and needs some models for her portfolio, and this was the way I come to photography or being a model. And after several years in the front of the camera, I was very interested to be on the other side. And together with my boyfriend, we found the company GK Photography, and now we work together as photographer. And so, because I'm very interested in fashion as well and find it interesting to be creative and show the typical types of a personality and also from the fashion, this was the reasons why I go into this part of photography.
How is fashion photography different from other kinds of professional photography?
At fashion photography, it's very important to know which story the fashion tells. So you have to speak with the clients, the designers, the companies which produce the clothes, and the photo should show the idea behind the clothing, and a lot of more elaboration for the photo shooting, and all aspects should work together. There should be a harmony of the picture. So it's very different to other arts of photography because there's so many aspects. You have to look at it and be perfect at the end for the last shot.
Should you develop your own style as a fashion photographer, or is it more important to stick to a certain industry standard or some kind of requirement out there on the market?
For my opinion, it's important to know what the client wants. So the industry standard is important, but I think more important is your own style, because this is the reason why clients book you for a photo shoot. The quality, of course, must be very good, and at the beginning you learn the basics and improve your work. But at the end, it's important to have your own style, of course, because it's the way you look at the picture and know that it's your work, and it's make the picture unique from other photographers. And the style is the reason why clients book you, and the style is your portfolio, of course.
And how do you get kind of discovered, or how do you get stand out with your style so people actually see that you have your own style?
It depends on what pictures you made. And fashion photography, it's very different, the styles from other photographers. It's the way you look at the fashion by yourself, how you want to show the fashion in your opinion. Also to combine your style with the story the fashion tells. And that is one of the main parts, that your style is unique, but it fits to possible situation and clothing. So it can be how the picture look, or it's a black or white photography or something like that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process, how a professional shooting is prepared?
Yes, of course. The important thing is to know the story behind the pictures. So you sit together with the client and speak about the story, about the fashion you want to shoot. And most of the time you have a mood board. In the mood board you see all the details about the shooting, like the model, the location, also the makeup, and also the color style of a picture. Then you start to look which model from an agency or something else work together with this concept. Then you book a location or a studio. And also the timetable is very important to know when to start, which light is good for the style of the picture. And then you coordinate all these parts to know that the crew is on the right time on set, and also the equipment and the location is prepared. Then you can start with the shooting, and it's a lot to do in the preparation. Some of the times you have partners like an art director or a stylist, or sometimes you do all by yourself as a photographer.
Okay, cool. When there is an art director, do you develop this kind of mood board together with the art director, or he hands you a finished mood board and then you work off that?
It depends on the company, but it's also a co-work. So the art director tells you the story about the picture and you bring some important points to the concept. Like, it's possible to shoot this picture in this location, or I just have to go to a studio to this is a better way. So everyone brings their knowledge.
Are there any no-goes in fashion photography or things you should avoid in general?
In general, it's hard to answer this question because I think there are no-goes, because in different times you have different pictures they work for the clients, and later on there are no way to sell these pictures. So no-goes, it depends on the time and the story and the company you work for. And for me, it's more important to have your own style and combine your style with the story of the company, of the clothing. So the pictures need a quality for sure, but there are not no-goes, I can tell you.
Okay, so the company decides what kind of things they don't want to have in there, but generally there's a lot of artistic freedom in the industry of fashion photography.
Yes, there are basics for sure you have to know, but the basics come from good photography, and then you're just a copy, so you just need to know what works for the companies, but with your style.
Where did you usually get the clothing for your photo shootings?
When you start as a fashion photographer, normally you use your own clothes or the clothes from the model. Sometimes you have the opportunity to work with some stores or some designers. And in the end, you get the clothes from the company they book you. So it depends on the level you are working. So there are different opportunities to get clothing.
Can you give us an idea of how many pictures you shoot on a professional shooting per scene, and how many of those are chosen to go on to become the final product?
Yeah, it's very different because it depends on the model, on the location, and all these kinds of stuff you use at the photo shooting. But overall, you can say that for one scene, you shot about 50 to 100 pictures, and of them, 1 to 5% were taken from the customer.
How many scenes do you usually have for shooting?
It depends. It can be that it's just one scene, but 10 different clothes. So you just say that per clothes you have 200 pictures, or you have several scenes. So it depends on the story the company wants to tell. If you want to show them in different location, you have more. If you have a studio shooting, you have just a studio, maybe the background switch, but it depends very strong from the mood board you had at the beginning of the shooting.
Is fashion photography as glamorous and exciting as it seems to be?
For sure, because the branch you work for, the fashion branch, is very glamorous with all their events and fashion shows, and you can work all over the world and travel a lot to go to special places and make their photo shootings and something like that. And as a fashion photographer, you have the opportunities to be part of this business. But it's also work for sure, because you have to prepare for the shootings, you have to do your work, you have to be good in that what you do, and this means that you have to learn the techniques, you have to know what's going on in the business, and also the post-production is a main part of your work, so you sit on your computer and make the retouche and the correction of the pictures. And so it is glamorous for sure, but it is also work. But if you love your work, it doesn't matter.
How do you get started as a young fashion photographer to get recognized and get your first contracts?
First of all, it's very important to have your own portfolio. So you have something in your hand that you can show your customers to see how you work and what is the photos you make. The rest is network. So you go to events of the business and to fashion shows or contact designers or companies like that. And it networks. So the people know you, they know your work, and they know what you're doing and what pictures they get if they book you. And that's the important thing. So the important thing is to have a good portfolio. And first of all, you start to build up the portfolio, and this is the main point of all.
And can you just go to these events when you get started? And do you bring your portfolio, or is it just like a chit chat and then afterwards you show them some pictures if they request it?
It depends on the event. Some are open for everyone and some are just with an invitation. So it's important to have a good contact in this business. With them, you can go to the events, and then it's important that the people know your name. And after this event, you contact them again and ask for a meeting where you can show them your portfolio.
Can you tell us about some classic beginner mistakes you should avoid?
I think one of the biggest mistakes at the beginning is to start too big. So first of all, you know your equipment, you know your camera and also the flash, the lightnings and something like that. And you start with the shooting in a studio with a model, and you don't know your camera, you don't know how the flash works or the equipment in the studio. There are so many points you have to control, so many mistakes you can make. So I think the best is to start small. So you focus on one thing, you focus on the camera, on the next step you focus on the flash, in the next step you focus on the studio equipment or the location. And if you can handle all these parts that are very important for a good shoot, you can book a model, a profi model at first. I think it's a good one because the model know how they act in front of the camera, and you can see how a model act in front of the camera and which looks good at the end on a picture. And then you know this part. And if you have all these parts under control and you know how all these parts work together, you're a good photographer.
What are 3 things you would suggest to fashion photographers who are starting out to learn the trades of the business right now?
First of all, I would say a good thing is to look for a professional photographer who's in the business, and most of them have YouTube channels or tutorials or coaching or something like that, so he can work from a profi, how he work, how he prepare shootings, how make them the post-production. A second thing is then you can rent a studio and also talk with the photographer from the studio and ask him questions about the equipment, the lighting, the flash, and that he show how he used the equipment and how you have to adjust the equipment for that kind of pictures or what style you want to show. And the third thing is also like the Nick collection, a program where you have some possibilities for the settings on your pictures. So you can use presets or change the picture by the looking, like the light, the contrast or something like that. So there are 3 main points I think that are very important.
At what point should you start to buy professional gear as a fashion photographer?
If you want to build up a good business, you have to start with the right equipment. So it is important that you start with the right equipment. So there is no time at the beginning where you can work with another camera or something like that and then switch to the other one, because you have to know the equipment at the starting because you learn with the equipment. And if you switch later on to the profi equipment, you start again to learn with the equipment, to know your equipment. So I think it's better to start with the right equipment. And it's hard to find the right equipment at the beginning, I know, but there are so many experts, so many shops and other photographers that can help you to find the right equipment. And you don't need all of them at the beginning. A good body, a good lens and good flash is enough for a start. And then you go further and buy time by time the next equipment.
As a fashion photographer, is it more important to be at the right place or to have a great portfolio?
At the beginning, of course, it's important to be at the right place, because you have to be at the place where your clients are, because the networking is the main part to get jobs and to get your own brand in the business. So at the beginning, the place is very important. Later on, if you have your own name and a good portfolio and good references from other clients, it's not so important anymore, but you have to be at the locations where the business is.